Do you remember these things? They're probably somewhere collecting dust right now, like in a closet or in a basement, like mine are. But it contained a weird-looking portal and a lot of figures, including Sully, Mr. Incredible, and the guy that used to scare me because I didn't watch his movie as a kid. Gimmicks in video games have existed for a very long time, practically ever since video games first began. Initially, they were the key to making your hypothetical video game, yeah, that's you in the 1970s, making the light gun, you freak, into something sellable. Gimmicks ranged from literal controllers to 3D glasses, all the way to modern tactics like mixed reality, AI, everything, and even conceptual gimmicks like horror mascot characters that can be sold to children by their uninformed parents.
Okay, so the first night is never usually that bad in any of the games, so I'll play through.
Sometimes they're good, usually they're bad, but one time it was so successful that it created an entirely new genre of its own. Toys to Life, get this, turns toys to life in the virtual world. These little guys look like classic action figures, but utilize what is called near-field communication, or NFC, to transmit data using short wireless connection. Nowadays, you mainly see NFC used for your silly little tap-to-pay cards or interactive museums or other modern tech trends, but they once were sacred in the gaming community.
DK's in, this is gonna be bananas.
Depending on the game using it, NFCs stored personal character stats or even entire save files within them, almost like an additional physical cartridge for the game. Although there were some companies that tried utilizing this technology prior, the true trend-setting began with Skylanders Spyro's Adventure back in 2011. However, Spyro had many NFC adventures. I'll be honest, I did own Skylanders. Well, my brother owned it, which means that I technically owned it. We still have it somewhere. I'm sorry, famous game development company Toys for Bob. I was not familiar with your game. Because what do you mean that we not only got 6 Skylanders games before GTA 6, but all 6 of them were made in less of a time frame that it's taken between GTA 5 and GTA 6 to come out. Let me reiterate, 6 Skylanders games. That is so many. But anyways, my point is that I don't really know too much about the incredible lore of Skylanders, but it did lead to something else that I'm a little bit more familiar with. So I'm going to Disney World soon, and I'm a little excited, so you guys are gonna have to let me live out to Mickey Mouse for a little bit, okay? As mentioned, the first Skylanders game came out back in 2011, and seeing as it had 5 more installments in the series, you can probably assume that it was pretty popular. Being able to have a video game that could also be used as a toy probably blew people's minds back then. It was essentially a 2-for-1 deal. The way that Disney Infinity came to be, though, is actually a very interesting series of events. Let's jump back to the year of June 2010. Avalanche Software, who made other games like the Tech series, Chicken Little, and another Chicken Little, and most recently Hogwarts Legacy, created Toy Story 3, the video game. Hey, is that yet another movie tie-in game? I wish there was a video where I could learn more about that. Preferably with cows. Toy Story 3, the video game, contained various different game modes, including one called the Toy Box. This mode was a sandbox exploration mode with different missions, unique playable characters, changeable environments, and basically anything else you would imagine a virtual toy box to be. Are you catching on yet? So this game mode ended up being kinda successful with fans, and alongside the success of Skylanders, it inspired a brand new creation, Disney Infinity. The same concept of this toy box mode, but now letting players combine entire Disney and Pixar-related worlds all into one playable universe. This pitch was presented to the Disney Interactive team, who were obviously in love with the idea, and it quickly entered development under Avalanche Software later that same year. The game split this toy box concept into its 2 main game modes, the main campaigns that consisted of universe-relevant missions in an adjacent story, and a complete sandbox mode where players could combine worlds and create games of their own. One of the primary concerns of the development of the game was the fact that Disney and Pixar had a lot of variety. Technology had evolved so quickly that many of these different universes looked drastically different from each other. If executed poorly, it would not only look bad for the game, but the integrity of Disney as a whole. And we all know that can't happen. So the focus had to highlight ensuring a visually cohesive art style that felt like a toy while still staying true to the source material. The end result? I mean, it did its job. Some may critique how it looks or think that it's a bit too stylized, but as a certified game development student, I would argue it's pretty clear and intentional design strategy. Do they look like they're in their own universes? Not exactly, but they look like toys. Simple, bright, and sort of blocky too. It gets the vision across that these are characters you recognize, but now in an entirely new context, further encouraging creativity and combination between the worlds. It quite literally replicates buying a bunch of toy figures and throwing them all together. The first major launch of Disney Infinity came in August of 2013. Let's unpack the absolute monster that is Disney Infinity first. In order to play, you need the starter pack. This pack was priced at about $75 and contained the game disc, the game base, the holy trio of starter figures, 3 matching playset pieces, and a random play disc. In 1.0, there were 19 character figures to collect, with some additional variations like glow-in-the-dark or crystal, and 6 total campaign worlds that you could access through playset pieces. The starter pack of the characters and the playsets had to be something perfect for all audiences, and with so many choices, the possibilities were endless. So, in the end, Avalanche decided on Pirates of the Caribbean, The Incredibles, and Monsters University. These choices were interesting, to say the least, but they were also very deliberate choices. Pirates of the Caribbean appealed to both old and young audiences, especially those more interested in live action rather than just animated content. The skill set offered for unique game mechanics, like guns, and overall was one of 3 distinct looks for the game. The Incredibles were likely due to how well they just naturally fit into the world. Being able to control superheroes with different powers allowed for a lot of creativity for all audiences. And lastly, Monsters University. Of course, Monsters Inc. is an iconic franchise, but this choice was much more deliberately promotional for the movie that had just released earlier that year. It helped encourage kids to watch the movie and provided an additional sort of toy for parents to cough up their well-earned money for. But these 3 choices exemplified what Disney Infinity was all about, getting a bunch of toys and things to play with and seeing what happens when you put them together and design the game that you want to play. And these mechanics? Well, they sold. They sold a lot. They didn't reach Skylander levels of fame, but Disney Infinity found its own niche in the toy-to-life genre, being able to have the advantage of Disney and Pixar on their side, while Skylanders mostly just had Spyro. Not only were there figures to buy, but there were additional campaigns and even power-ups that came at complete random, further encouraging people to buy even more stuff like they were trying to get a Fat Gay Pikachu card. Doing rough estimations, to own everything in Disney Infinity 1.0, it would cost over $700, and that's assuming you had perfect luck trying to get those pieces that I mentioned earlier. Now, Disney and Pixar saw this grand success and, like any greedy corporation, raised the question: how do we get more money? In 2014, Disney Infinity released its 2.0 version, but rather than it be an update, this was considered an entirely new game. Oh, did you already spend hundreds of dollars on 1.0 and hope to just update the game or buy a new figure? If you wanted to keep up with the latest additions, you now needed to purchase another game with 3 new starter figures in another starter pack. This 2014 released game took a major leap for the franchise's development, because you know what else Disney owns? Besides like everything else in the world? Marvel! Meet Disney Infinity 2.0 Marvel Superheroes. It launched with plenty of new figures and mechanics, putting a much larger focus on combat and missions rather than just the previous classic sandbox feel. These missions transformed the game entirely though, adding skill trees and more of an RPG feel to the game. There was also less of a focus on the individuality shown in Disney Infinity 1.0. In 1.0, characters had what were known as adventures. Some were just tutorials or missions, but others were character adventures. These were character-specific missions that could unlock more content in the Toy Box mode, but this feature was scrapped for 2.0. Instead, it was replaced with Toy Box games. These, unlike the adventures, were not limited to certain figures, so players could be whoever they wanted. These added new and unique mechanics like a tower defense-like game, among others. 2.0 had new features to allow players to share their creations with others too, which went exactly as how you would expect. Sales were pretty strong for 2.0, but having a Marvel focus definitely isolated many of the audiences who are interested in getting other franchises in the Disney and Pixar universes. Even though they technically did include more than just Marvel, their promotions were very Marvel-centric, which made things a little bit difficult for audiences to properly understand. Did they learn from this lesson? No, because in the next year, 2015, Disney Infinity 3.0 came out, and this time, it was about Star Wars. Lots and lots of Star Wars. Disney Infinity's final major release in its series happened in 2015 with its 3.0 version. It was similar to 2.0 in the sense that it was an entirely new game with new figures and other items to collect. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not a huge Star Wars nerd. It's gonna happen eventually, I'm just not there yet. But if I say anything wrong or incorrect about the Star Wars universe, this is my apology. Each playset allowed players to travel to different Star Wars worlds in order to defeat the big bad Darth Vader from doing whatever it is that he does. And despite the heavily influenced marketing, there were other additional playsets beyond Star Wars too. Inside Out essentially got a sequel before the sequel with a new storyline, Marvel got more content with 8 arenas to battle against robot doppelgangers, and Finding Dory got one too, where you have to save the fishes from becoming seagull bait. There were also planned sets for Moana and Star Wars Rogue One, but unfortunately these ideas were scrapped prior to release. But don't worry, what matters most is that Disney Infinity 3.0 gave us Nick Wilde. The following year, 2016, was the beginning of the end for Disney Infinity as a franchise. People were starting to realize that money is hard to get, and maybe spending hundreds of dollars on figures that may eventually become obsolete may not be the best investment. Disney, however, did not come to the same conclusion, so overproduction ran rampant. It was so bad, in fact, that over 2 million Hulk figures were created at one point, and only half were ever sold. That's 1 million Hulk figures wasting money and slightly dooming the environment alone. This issue happened a lot and inevitably led to very poor sales strategies, despite being one of the best games of its genre for the time. After this, Disney decided to leave the game publishing business in its entirety, and unfortunately, Disney Infinity got caught in the crossfire. Any further updates or adaptations to 3.0 was cancelled, and the franchise as we know it became a faint memory. But if you still wanted to play Disney Infinity now, what do? If you didn't have the content back when it was at the peak of its sales, trying to gather everything or try to replicate the experience with emulators and hacks would be really difficult to manage. Well, thankfully, that's where the Gold Editions kicked in. This version of the game exists for 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0, and it gives you every piece of physical content in the game automatically, all for just a single $30 purchase. You could even transfer your old data prior to 2016, and if you owned any of the games physically, you wouldn't have to pay for the Gold Edition at all. Of course, there are some differences and a few things missing that were part of the original versions of these games, but at its core, this game has been preserved amazingly. Even with its eventual downfall, Disney Infinity left a major mark not just on the Toys to Live genre, but on the video game industry as a whole. It sparks important questions about what a game is truly worth and how far companies can push monetized content before it becomes downright exploitative. I mean, imagine a world where every character in a game like Smash Bros. Had to be unlocked through a $13 figure. Amiibos, rather than just offering fun additional features, were required for major aspects of gameplay. That was the reality for Disney Infinity, and unfortunately that's the reason why it failed. But I have a hot take that the world might not be ready to hear. Under the right circumstances and with one major shift, Disney Infinity could be completely successful to this day. And that change? Community agency. Hi, I'm Vanessa, aka vannycoo, aka I'm about to blow your mind. And today, we're gonna talk about Disney Infinity and beyond. Crazy how they didn't use that slogan, by the way. First of all, multiple game versions? Ew. Ew, bro, they're gone. Who does that? This game will be like a platform, utilizing iterative updates to help lower the costs of consumers while still providing new, high-quality content. A new movie comes out? Oh no, guess I gotta buy a whole new game and starter pack. What, do you like living in the past? Now let's talk about why this would work. Do you like Minecraft? Do you like Fortnite? Do you like... Do you like DTI with your baddies? Let's talk about that. Those games succeeded because they gave characters creative freedom and the agency to participate in their community in a direct way. So let's take that original concept of Disney Infinity, where you're combining worlds and creating your own stories, and actually let you do that. No more dropping the prefab Disney prop nukes into the predetermined square arenas. In Disney Infinity and beyond, players would get building blocks, game design tools, and interactive systems to create entire games inside this sandbox. Ever wanted to see Wreck-It Ralph and Lightning McQueen go at it at a rhythm game competition? Sure. Want to make a princess dress-up game with custom texture creation? Yeah, okay. A Marvel turn-based RPG? Hell yeah, go wild. And besides, your free labor saves us money, and once you've built it, you can share it. Maybe you want to write your own dialogue, animate a cutscene, or build a mini-movie starring Olaf and Darth Vader. Maybe you take that guy's rhythm game and you put your own original soundtrack inside. Maybe it's a dungeon crawler toolkit someone else made for expansive world building, and you just modded it into a dating sim for Monsters, Inc. This is just a few minutes of brainstorming. Imagine what a full community could do. You could upload your creations, browse public levels, play online with friends, remix someone else's world, or collaborate to build something entirely brand new. And I know, you're probably sitting there like, but people are terrible. awful. They'll make horrible, inappropriate things, and I don't want my child or young adult to see that. And I mean, yeah, you're right. So let's talk about content moderation. Developers of Disney Infinity and beyond would focus on creating new tools and content for creators, but a major focus would go into moderating created content. It's impossible to track everything, sure, but sandbox games have done it in the past. Mario Maker, Roblox, Fortnite, even Disney Infinity itself. All of these games targeted for children have had these same options. Sure, things might slip through the cracks, but with the level of financial support Disney has under its belt, it's safe to assume they could afford to have some strong safety measures implemented in the games. And before I continue, I'm aware that Disney itself is very passionate about things that don't align with their Disney vision. And that's likely the reason why an idea like this will probably never come to fruition, but I'm living in a world where I'm pretending this could happen, so just entertain me for a little bit longer, okay? Thanks. But wait, Disney Infinity was all about the figures, the toys to life. Are you expecting us to pay hundreds of dollars for this game again? Well, yes and no. The toys themselves can easily still exist, but rather than gatekeeping content, they would just kind of expand upon it. Physical figures could work like amiibo, providing optional bonuses, maybe scanning one unlocks new skins, XP boosts, exclusive animations, or themed world assets that don't majorly impact the gameplay, but are still cool to showcase on your shelf at home. At the same time, characters or major features could be earned, or purchased if we want to be greedy, digitally with DLC battle passes of sorts, making the game more accessible without abandoning its toy-to-life roots. These passes could include new characters or franchises after a movie release, new game mechanics and tools to implement in your game creations, additional environmental assets, VFX, the list goes on. And the final point I'll make in my incredible pitch is that yes, I recognize not everyone will want to connect with the community directly, so along with some implementations at release, this game could include developer levels created by players to get a slice of that community-inspired content without having to worry about, well, the community. This would be great for younger audiences or for people who just want to play and get inspiration quickly. But anyways, that's my time. You know how the mouse gets when we spend too much time not working. I don't know what that was, but Disney Infinity marked a very interesting turn for the game industry in terms of toys to life, really making a mark as its own genre. It did some things right, did a lot of things wrong, taught a lot of marketing lessons for anybody interested in that, but in its entirety, I think it's something that we could look back on and maybe even improve in the future. My favorite parts of playing Disney Infinity were when I could just go in and throw characters together and basically do my own role-playing sessions with myself. But who says we can't do that now? The pitch was just something silly I came up with while I was creating this script, but I'm curious if anybody else has any ideas about how Disney Infinity might be able to work to this day. I think it was a really great concept and one that we didn't really utilize to its ultimate potential, for reasons explained earlier, but I want to hear your thoughts, so make sure you comment down below, and I'll see you next month in the next video. Bye-bye! Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. This was a really fun video to make. I wanted to do something kind of shorter, and then I kind of got excited with the whole pitch thing and kind of went off the rails a bit. But I had a lot of fun making this video, and Disney Infinity was one of those games that were just a core part of my childhood, so it was really fun to get to do this and to look on what the game was and what made it work and what made it fail. I have a really cool video planned for next month. It'll be kind of more conceptual, dare I say educational, than my usual videos, but I'm really excited for it, and I think it'll be a really cool thing to try out on this channel, so make sure you are subscribed if you want to see more of my lovely content. I post once a month. Also, if you'd like to leave a few comments, like this video, share with your friends. I'm a new creator still, so it helps out a lot more than you would think. And on that note, thank you to everybody who watched my last video. Thank you to everybody who's been watching all my videos, showing support. It's really exciting. I'm still trying to get the hang of stuff, trying to find a good mix between short-form content with these long-form content videos, and also trying not to go insane. So I've had a lot of fun figuring that out, and yeah, that's kind of all I have to say. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!